AITA for refusing to raise my fiancé's baby after finding out my dad is the father? So here I am, a 25-year-old man. Never thought I'd be posting my life story on Reddit, but here we are. My life literally went to hell in a handbasket, and I need to get this off my chest. Buckle up and grab some popcorn, it gets really twisted. In 24, and I met during her first year of college. We lived in the same dorm building, and I was a year ahead. We met at one of those forced social events they sometimes organize, you know. Those events where they make you make friends with cheap punch and stale cookies. I only went because my roommate dragged me along, saying I needed to socialize more instead of playing Call of Duty all weekend. Whatever. So, I'm standing there, as bored as can be, when this girl walks in with a couple of friends. I won't lie. She was stunning. Long dark hair, amazing smile, knockout legs. We started talking when we both went for the last decent cookie on the snack table. Turns out we lived pretty close to each other back home, just 2 towns over. So, every time we went home for breaks, I'd take her with me in the car. You learn a lot about someone when you're stuck in a car for 3 hours. After spending quite a bit of time together, both at school and on those car trips, we started dating. We're both very close to our families, so we told them right away. I had already met her parents before, when I'd drop her off at home, but it was just a quick hello, how's it going? They seemed nice. Her dad was a quiet guy who worked in construction. Her mom was a teacher. Normal people. When I took her to my house to meet my parents, my mom, 50 years old, went all out. She made a huge dinner, bought new tablecloths, the whole package. My dad, Walter, 52 years old, was way too excited to meet her. Now, here's the thing. My dad has always been that sleazy guy, eyeing women when my mom's not looking. But I figured all guys do that, so I didn't pay much attention. When he met in, the first thing he said was, "So, this is the girl who has my son with the movie star looks." I remember my mom giving him a look, but she didn't say anything. Our families got along pretty well, which made things easier. I let it slide. Come on, I told myself, she's half his age. When I graduated, I came back home because I got a decent job at the local factory. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and then some. I started on the assembly line, working with metal. Hard work, but honest, you know? It's nobody's dream job, but the pay's decent, and I've got benefits. Plus, the coworkers are cool. We sometimes go out for beers after work, talk trash about the supervisors, the usual. Now, my dad was always that guy who needed to be the center of attention at every family gathering. Always showing off his new toys, bike, boat, whatever midlife crisis item he was financing that month. A walking stereotype, receding hairline, but refusing to shave it all off. Always wearing tight polo shirts to show off the gym membership he barely used, telling stories of his glory days, making sure and heard how much of a ladies' man he was back in the day. "You should have seen me when I was your age," he'd say while I was there. "I could have been a pro if I hadn't busted my knee." Sure, Dad, sure. My coworkers joked that my dad was still trying to prove he had it every time he passed through the factory to drop something off. Always flirting with the young girls in the office. Standing way too close. Once, my friend Marcus saw him at a bar downtown buying drinks for women who were clearly younger than my mom, but I didn't pay much attention. I just thought he was a fun guy. No boundaries. "Your dad is a piece of work," Marcus said once, not meaning to offend. But guys like him never change. I just let it go. That's just Walter being Walter, according to my mom. She'd just roll her eyes, but never really confronted him. They'd been married for about 30 years at that point, so I figured she knew how to handle him. And then I lived together for about 3 years before I proposed to her. Nothing fancy. I took her to the lake, where we had our first real date. After we got home, I knelt at sunset, she cried. Said yes, obviously, and we started planning the wedding. We set the date for the next summer, booked the venue, all that. Her parents offered to help with the expenses, which was a big gesture. I should have seen the warning signs, but I was working 10-hour shifts and being a clueless idiot. I was too busy thinking about our future to notice what was happening right in front of me. There were so many things I just didn't see, so many red flags I ignored. For example, my dad would call in all the time. At first, I thought it was sweet of him, making sure his future daughter-in-law felt welcome in the family. But then it got weird. He'd call her instead of me when he needed something. "Oh, I thought you'd be busy at work," was his excuse. Sure, because it makes more sense to call my fiancée than message me. Once, and was in the shower, and her phone rang. I saw it was my dad, so I answered. When he realized it was me, he sounded super annoyed and surprised. "Oh, hey, son, didn't expect you to answer." His voice got tense. "What's up?" I asked what was going on, and he said something about my mom's birthday. That he wanted his opinion on a gift. We talked for about a minute, and I hung up. When he came out of the shower and I told her my dad had called, she made a really strange face. "What did he want?" she asked too quickly. "Something about my mom's birthday gift," I told her. "Oh, right. Yeah, he mentioned wanting to get her something special this year." Then she quickly changed the subject, asking what I wanted for dinner. "About 6 months ago, and started going to the gym every day. Literally, every day. Before, she'd go maybe twice a week with her coworker Jess. But suddenly it became a huge priority. She started buying workout clothes she'd never worn before. When I asked about it, she said she just wanted to look good for the wedding. Well, I guess that's fine. But then she also changed her hair. It went from brown to blonde. She started wearing makeup, even on weekends when we were just lying around the apartment. Once I even joked, "Wow, do you have a secret boyfriend or something?" She laughed way too hard and gave me a really weird look, like a kid caught with their hand in the cookie jar. "Don't be silly," she said, but didn't look me in the eye. One night, I got home early from work. We'd finished a big order ahead of schedule, and the supervisor let us go. When I got home, I heard the shower running. It was around 4:30, way earlier than I usually showered after work. I called out to her, but she didn't answer. Probably didn't hear me over the sound of the water. When she came out, towel wrapped around her, she looked as surprised as hell to see me. "You're home early," she said, sounding almost annoyed. "Yeah, we finished early." "And why are you showering now?" "Oh, I went to the gym after work and got all sweaty." Makes sense, right? Except there was no gym bag anywhere. Still, I didn't question it. The weirdest part was how she acted around my dad in public. She'd joke with him, call him old man, or make fun of his bald spot, but when it was just the three of us, it was a 180-degree turn. She'd go all quiet and nervous, laughing at all his stupid jokes, fixing her hair when he'd walk into the room. Once, we were at my parents' house for Sunday dinner, and I went to help my mom with the dishes. When I came back, my dad and Dan were sitting way too close on the couch, looking at something on his phone. They jumped apart as soon as I walked in, and my dad quickly shoved the phone away. "Just showing her that cabin we rented last summer," he said. "Thought you guys might want to use it sometime." At family barbecues, I catch him staring at her when he thought no one was looking. Not just a quick glance, but blatantly checking out her ass when she bent down to grab a drink from the fridge. At that moment, I thought it was just a typical old perv. I never imagined he'd actually take it a step further. Even as I'm writing this, I feel like an idiot for not seeing what was happening. Seriously, how did I miss this? I was working between 50 and 60 hours a week. I came home tired, just happy to have a hot meal and someone to talk to. Never suspected the woman I loved was sleeping with my own dad. And my dad. That's the part that really kills me. This is the guy who taught me how to fish, who went to all my high school football games, who helped me buy my first car. How do you go from that to betraying your own son in the worst possible way? I never thought my dad would do something like this. He and my mom seemed fine together. They'd been married forever. And I never saw many problems between them. Everything went to shit on a random Thursday. Nothing special. And had the day off. Normally, she didn't work on Thursdays. Something about her department doing 4-day work weeks. I got up at 5 a.m., as usual, for my 6 a.m. shift at the factory. She was still in bed, but got up while I was in the shower. When I came out, she'd already made breakfast, eggs, bacon, toast. It wasn't something she did every day, but it wasn't unusual either. "Have a good day off," I said, giving her a kiss goodbye. She kissed me back. All sweet and normal. "I'm going to do some laundry, and maybe we can go out for dinner tonight." "Sounds good." And with that, I left the house like any other day. Work was normal. I was at the punch press, the usual. Around 10 in the morning, I realized I'd forgotten some papers the supervisor needed for a safety meeting that afternoon. Some incident reports I'd filled out earlier in the week. You'd think a factory this size would be digital by now, but no. We still use paper forms like it's 1995. During the morning. And texted about normal things, just typical couple stuff. So when lunchtime came around, I didn't bother texting her that I was going to stop by home. It wasn't a big deal. just grabbing some papers and heading back to work. The drive from the factory to our apartment was about 15 minutes. Not bad. By the way, we got the place after she graduated, using some money my grandfather gave me for a down payment on a decent condo. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Well, technically mine, since only my name was on the mortgage. But we always talked about it like it was ours. Anyway, when I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed a car that looked a lot like my dad's silver Audi. Same model, same color. Even had a dent in the same spot on the rear bumper from when he hit a post at Christmas. I was confused. What was he doing at my apartment? I mean, it's not like the car screened. I'm sleeping with your fiancé. So I parked, walked to the building, used my key, opened the door, and man, what I saw made my stomach drop. There was a trail of clothes from the door to my bedroom. Not just women's clothes, but also men's, a pair of dress pants I recognized, a tie I gave my dad for Christmas 2 years ago. And I could hear them, you know? I just stood there frozen. My brain was saying, no, this can't be happening. I wanted to run in and start throwing punches, but I couldn't move. It felt like my feet were glued to the floor with cement. I don't know how long I stood there. It could have been 30 seconds or 5 minutes. But when I finally reacted, something weird happened. I got incredibly calm, almost eerily so. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just took out my phone and started recording. First, I filmed the clothes on the floor, making sure to focus on my dad's wallet that had fallen out of his pants pocket. Then I gathered up all his clothes and threw them into the hallway. Afterward, I filmed myself walking toward the bedroom. The door was wide open. They didn't even try to be discreet. I stood there filming for about a minute. After that minute, I stretched my arm and turned on the light. They both jumped like they'd been electrocuted. And yes, it was definitely my dad in bed with my fiancée. One thing is to suspect it, and a whole different thing to see it with your own eyes. My dad's pale white back, and his face with wide open eyes mid-fuck. A mental image I'll never be able to erase. When he realized I was recording, my dad started to panic. What the hell are you doing? Turn that off. Turn it off now, he yelled, trying to cover himself with a blanket and reach for my phone. I didn't think, I just reacted. 16 years working with metal gave me good arm strength. I don't even remember how it happened, but I landed a right hook straight to his jaw. The guy dropped like a sack of potatoes, his head bouncing off the door frame as he fell, and started screaming like she'd just witnessed a murder. Oh my God, Walter, are you okay? Oh my God. Funny how her first concern was for him, not the fact I just caught them together. That told me everything I needed to know about where her loyalties lay. Relax, I told her, pointing the camera at her while she tried to cover herself with the blanket. He's just taking a nap. I thought you knew he likes it rough. My dad was unconscious for about a minute. When he started to come to, he was holding his jaw. I just smirked in contempt and told him, I came to get some papers for work. If either of you is still here when I get back, I'll send this video to everyone I know, including the guys at the factory who think you're hot shit, Dad. His face turned ghost white and was already crying. That ugly cry where the makeup runs all over her face. Baby, please, can I explain? She started. Shut up. I interrupted. There's no explanation for sleeping with my dad. I stopped recording, looked at my dad, who was still on the floor, and said, You're dead to me. You're not my father anymore. Maybe you should go home and talk to Mom, because I'll be talking to her real soon. Then I grabbed the papers I needed from my desk and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. It wasn't until I got to the car that my hands started shaking. I sat there for a while, trying to process what just happened. I turned the car on 3 times and turned it off again because I didn't trust myself to drive. I considered coming back with a baseball bat, but what good would it do? The damage was done. Later, while I was driving, my phone started filling up with texts from an please come back. We need to talk about this. Then, it's not what you think. I ignored them all. Then came a message from my dad. I'm not lying to you. Son, we need to talk about this. Like men. Like men? He was joking. What kind of man sleeps with his son's fiancée? I blocked both their numbers. My supervisor called me asking where I was, and I told him I was on my way. When I got to the factory with the papers, the supervisor noticed something was off. I must have looked like a wreck. Jesus, man, are you okay? You look like hell. He noticed some blood on my neck, must have been from the punch I gave my dad, and asked about it. I needed to tell someone, you know? So, I took him to the break room and showed him the video. His eyes went wide when he saw it. Man, is that your dad with your girl? He shook his head. He offered to cover my shift, but I told him I just needed a moment and I'd be fine. Work was actually a good distraction. It kept my hands busy so my mind didn't go spiraling. I did what I had to do the rest of the day, pretending everything was normal. I went to that safety meeting at 3, nodded at the right moments, signed the forms, but inside, I felt dead. When 5 o'clock came, I punched out like usual and headed home, not knowing what I'd find when I got there. Would they still be there? Would they be arguing? Would my dad have called the cops for assault? No idea. But no, the place was empty. They'd even picked up the clothes from the hallway. I guess they didn't want the neighbors asking questions. The first thing I did was take all the bedding off the bed, sheets, pillowcases, comforter. Everything. I threw it in a trash bag. My phone had about 30 missed calls and probably twice as many messages, most from Ann, but some from my mom too. I didn't read any of them. I couldn't deal with it yet. I decided to pack up all of Ann's things and put them outside the door. I grabbed all her clothes and belongings, anything I could find that was hers. It took me about an hour, and with every armful of her junk, I got angrier and angrier. We'd been together for what, 6 years? Planning our wedding, talking about having kids, where we'd live, all that future stuff. And all that time, she'd been sleeping with my dad. When did it all start? Since we started dating? Since we got engaged? Were they laughing behind my back? 6 years of my life thrown away like this. Technically, I couldn't kick her out because it was also her place, but I knew she'd avoid the conflict and wouldn't come back while I was there. She'd probably stay with some friend, or who knows, maybe even with my parents. Just thinking about it made me want to vomit. Then I remembered the ring. I proposed with my grandmother's ring. Something my dad had given me when I told him I wanted to ask him to marry me. Your grandma would have wanted her to have it, he told me. Sure she would have. He probably got a kick out of the idea of her wearing his mother's ring while they were sleeping together. Sick bastard. I texted Ann's parents to tell them the wedding was off. They'd always been kind to me, which made this even harder. Her dad helped me fix my car last summer. We spent a whole weekend replacing the transmission. Her mom always sent me home with leftovers when we visited. Good people. They didn't deserve this mess. Sorry to say this by text, but the wedding is off. Ann's been cheating on me with my dad. I caught them together today. I've packed her things. If you can come get them, I'd appreciate it. Short and to the point. I didn't go into detail. They didn't need that mental image. Her mom called me almost immediately. At first, she was defensive, not believing it. But when I told her I had the video, she went silent for a few seconds and then apologized, saying she had no idea. And that, of course, they'd come to pick up Ann's things. Around 9 p.m., someone knocked on the door. It was Ann's little brother and her mom. She looked like she'd been crying. I opened the door, and she just hugged me. She didn't say anything. Then they went downstairs and started loading the boxes with her things into the car. No one said much. What could be said? The next day, I tried calling my mom a dozen times, but she didn't answer. I thought it'd be better to tell her in person, so after another zombie-like day at work, I drove to my parents' house. The whole way, I kept thinking about what I was going to say. It's not exactly an easy conversation to have with your mom. Hey, Mom, guess what? Dad's sleeping with my fiancée. There's no good way to say that. When I got there, I sat in the car for a few minutes, trying to calm down. I noticed my dad's car wasn't in the driveway, which was good. I wasn't ready to see his face, punch him. But then something happened that shocked me. Suddenly, my mom stormed out of the house. At first, I thought maybe she was happy to see me, running to greet me, but no. Her face was red. And she looked furious. She started yelling at me before I even got out of the car. I rolled down the window, and she just exploded, calling me everything: abuser, woman beater, a disgrace. She said she'd raised me better than that. I was completely confused until she kept talking. Apparently, my dad had taken into my parents' house yesterday after I caught them, and told my mom that Ann and I had had a fight, that I was drunk and hit her, and that when he tried to protect her, I hit him too. Wow, seriously, the audacity of this guy. He sleeps with his son's fiancée, and then paints me as the villain. And the fucking stupidity, I had the damn video. He must have thought I wouldn't have the guts to show it to anyone. Well, he was wrong. Look, my mom had always taken my dad's side in everything. When I was a kid, in high school, even when I was clearly right. Typical of her. Dad was her golden boy who never did anything wrong. and I was the problematic son who never measured up. So she was furious. In fact, she slapped me and called me an abuser. She said I was just like my dad, that he used to beat her. She told me she was ashamed to call me her son, that I needed serious help and should turn myself into the police. I was in shock, trying to process the fact that my own mother thought I'd hit my fiancé. Finally, I exploded and yelled, "Mom, your precious husband is sleeping with my fiancé. That's why I hit him. If you don't believe me, I have a video." Her face completely changed. All the color drained from it in an instant. She stepped back. "What did you say?" she breathed. "Dad's sleeping with him." I said slowly, letting each word sink in. "I caught them in our bed yesterday. I have it on tape." She still didn't want to believe it. So, I took out my phone, found the video, and sent it to her. She pulled out her own phone, tapped the screen, and watched it. I'm not sure which was worse, catching them myself or seeing my mom's face as she realized what her husband had done. She watched until the moment when I turned on the light in the bedroom. Then she lowered the phone and just looked at me. She wasn't angry anymore. She looked completely devastated. "Mom." I started, but she raised her hand to stop me. "Leave," she said quietly. "Please, just go." I turned around and got into the car. As I drove away, I saw that she was crying. I felt bad for her for about 2 seconds, but after everything she had said, I thought, no, this is the end. I know it might sound extreme, but the fact that she really believed I was capable of something like that hurts. That night, I checked into a cheap motel. I couldn't go back to the apartment. I needed time. I turned off my phone because I couldn't deal with anyone trying to contact me. The next morning, I called my landlord to ask how much it would cost to break the lease. It was a lot. 3 months' rent plus the security deposit. But it was worth every penny just to get out of that apartment. I had some savings that I'd been putting aside for the wedding, so I used that money. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. My supervisor didn't ask questions, just told me to take whatever time I needed. I guess being a reliable employee has its perks. I found a decent place across town, signed the lease that afternoon, and arranged for the move the following week. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had so many notifications that the phone crashed twice. I didn't call anyone. I just sent a message to my boss saying I'd be in the next day and turned the phone off again. After a couple of days of disappearing from the world, I decided it was time to do something. I couldn't just let this happen. My dad had to face the consequences for what he did. That's when it hit me. My dad's father, grandfather Arthur, is filthy rich, like really rich. He made his fortune in construction back in the 80s. Built half of the shopping centers in the tri-state area. Then he got into real estate. He lives in a mansion by the lake, collects vintage cars, the whole rich old guy package. And my dad was going to inherit almost everything. He's an only child, and my grandfather had been grooming him to take over the family business for years. My dad works as the vice president at my grandfather's company, a position he clearly didn't earn by merit. Everyone knows the real boss is my grandfather. And my dad is just there because of his last name. What many people don't know about Grandpa Arthur, he's obsessed with family loyalty. His own brother tried to scam him in a business deal years ago. Embezzled a bunch of money, and my grandfather cut him off completely. They haven't spoken in over 30 years. My dad used to joke saying the old man holds grudges better than whiskey. But he always made sure to kiss up to him when inheritance came up. So, I called Grandpa. Straight to the point, I told him everything. At first, he couldn't believe it, but I told him I had proof. I hung up and sent him the video. It felt weird sending porn to my 78-year-old grandfather. Haha. But he needed to see it for himself. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Grandpa's voice was icy. "Is this real?" "Yes," I told him. "That's my fiancé, ex-fiancé now." The line went silent for a minute. I could hear his heavy breathing, like he was trying to control his anger. Then Grandpa said, "I'll take care of it." 2 days later, I was at work, trying to focus so I wouldn't lose a finger on the metal press, when my phone vibrated. I usually don't check it during shifts, but something told me I should look. It was a text from my cousin Matt. "Bro, you're not going to believe what just happened at the club. Call me when you can." Matt is a partner at the same country club as Grandpa, a fancy place with a golf course, tennis courts, and a restaurant where a burger costs like $30. The kind of place where real business is done in our town. I stepped out during my break and called him. "What's up?" I asked. "Man, your grandpa just went nuclear on your dad." Total scorched earth. What happened? Well, there's this weekly breakfast meeting where all the veterans get together, you know? Your dad usually goes, all the business guys in town. Grandpa Arthur walks in just like always, sits at his usual table. Then he stands up and says he has an announcement. Everyone gets quiet. When Arthur speaks, people listen. He says, "Many of you know my son, Walter. He is no longer associated with my construction company or any of my businesses. He has betrayed his family in a way I can't forgive or overlook." And then, "Here's the crazy part," he says. "My son slept with my grandson's fiancée. A man who betrays his own son like that is not someone I want representing my family or my businesses." Your dad just sat there, pale as a ghost. Then Grandpa sits back down and continues eating his eggs like nothing happened. The only thing I could say was, "Holy shit." I couldn't believe it. Grandpa Arthur just destroyed my dad's reputation in front of all the town's elite. That was basically a death sentence for his social and professional life. What happened next was beautiful. No drama, no big family confrontation. Grandpa's old school, he doesn't make a scene. He brought in his lawyer from Chicago, quietly. Spent 2 days rewriting his will and trust documents. Changed the locks on his office, had my dad's email and access cards deactivated. When my dad realized what was happening, it was too late. He found out when they rejected his country club card. That same afternoon, the manager handed him a letter saying his membership had been revoked at the request of the account holder. When he got home, they had already emptied his office at Grandpa's company. 2 days later, I get a call from my dad. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me, especially after everything that had happened. So I answered. He was desperate, begging me to talk to Grandpa. He said he'd made a mistake, that it only happened a few times, that he was sorry. A few times, like that made it better. Go to hell, old man. Son, please, you don't understand what's happening. He's taking everything from me. The job, the club, everything. He's changing his will. I'm going to lose everything. Sounds like a you problem, I told him. Maybe you should have thought about that before you slept with my fiancée. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. She came on to me, she started it. That pissed me off even more. Typical narcissist, blaming everyone but himself. Wow, and now throwing it under the bus. You're a real piece of shit, Dad. Just talk to Grandpa, please. He'll listen to you. No. You made your bed, now you sleep in it. I hung up and blocked his number. The satisfaction I felt was like nothing else. For the first time in his life, my dad was facing real consequences for his actions. A week later, my mom called. This time, I answered. Walter's gone, she said bluntly. I kicked him out the day after you showed me the video. The divorce papers have already been filed. Good for you, Mom. There's more. Turns out we had a prenuptial agreement I'd completely forgotten about. Your grandfather insisted on it when we got married. It has a fidelity clause, so your dad gets nothing. The house, the cars, the savings, it all stays with me. I whistled softly. Grandpa always thinking ahead, huh? Is he staying with his brother? I asked, not sure if I really cared, but feeling like I should. No one else wants to take him in. Stephen's not happy about it, but family's family, I guess. And how are you doing? I asked, not sure if I really cared, but feeling like I should. Surviving. It's a lot, 30 years of marriage, and it all went down the drain in an instant. Her voice cracked a little. I keep thinking about everything I didn't see, the signs I ignored. Yeah, I know that feeling. I'm sorry for what I said when you came to the house, the things I called you. I was just so. Save it, I interrupted. You believed him over me without even giving me a chance to explain. That tells me everything I need to know about our relationship. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Mom. Asked Dad. The ultimate satisfaction came when I heard through the grapevine that Dad had landed a job as an assistant manager at a hardware store. From being vice president at a multi-million-dollar company to stocking shelves and doing lunch schedules. From the country club to eating vending machine sandwiches in the break room. Karma's a bitch, and so is Grandpa when you betray him. I've never been more grateful for that old man's sense of justice. Edit 1. RIP my inbox. Thanks for all the awards, Reddit. Never thought my family disaster would give me more karma than 3 years of lurking. Edit 2. Stop asking for the video. What the hell is wrong with you people? I'm already traumatized enough without becoming a distributor of porn. Update. Hey, Reddit. It's been about 2 months since everything blew up. Thought I'd post an update, since many people asked. Life's been crazy since I caught my dad and ex together. For those asking about consequences, oh, there have been plenty. First, my dad, the guy's finished in this town. Lost his VP position, his country club membership, and basically all his friends. The divorce was quick thanks to the prenup. He got nothing, no house, no cars, no savings. Last I heard, he's working at a convenience store and living in a shitty studio apartment. I ran into him at a gas station last week. He looked 20 years older, totally gray, a complete mess. He tried to talk to me, but I just walked away. Maybe someday, but not now. My mom sold the house and moved to a condo downtown. We're rebuilding our relationship, slowly. Emphasis on slowly. I still can't get over how quickly she believed I was an abuser and moved in with her parents and keeps trying to text me with the usual, I made a mistake. I block her every time she texts from a new number. And to top it all off, 2 weeks ago she called me crying. She's pregnant. Doesn't know if it's mine or my dad's. She begged me to take responsibility for the baby. I told her I didn't care. There was no way in hell I was raising a kid who could be my half-brother. Then I blocked her again and told her if she called me again, I'd report her. As for me, I got a promotion at the factory to floor supervisor. Better pay, different hours. A new team who doesn't know anything about my drama. I moved to a new apartment across town. Longer commute, but worth it for a fresh start. Now, my grandpa and I hang out regularly. A cool guy with cool stories. He gave me what would have been my wedding fund as an investment for whatever comes next in the future. Life's not what I thought it would be at 25. Couldn't be worse. Oh wait, it could be worse. It could be my dad. Edit. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.